It's time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? Welcome to another episode of the 49ers Rush Podcast. I am your host, as always, John Chapman, and I'm glad to be here. It's Sunday. No football on TV, but that's okay because we've got to get our football fix in on Sunday. And here's the deal. We've got a very long podcast, so I want you guys to buckle in because we're going to be covering so much. We got training camp updates, injury updates, 5 new 49ers added, 5 49ers cut or put on IR. We'll go through all of those. I've got training camp highlights and more. Talking about roster battles. We're just going to be here, and you're going to be hearing from Jimmy Garoppolo, Jaquaski Tart, Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh. We've got a lot of highlights that from the training camps, because here's the difference between all other training camps. Usually we get like clips and, fans are there and all those things, but because of COVID, we don't have that. So the one area that I do love about the 49ers, they have upped their game with press conferences, which has been really, really helpful. So we're going to allow the players and the coaches and the staff to kind of set the tone as we go through all of this with the 49ers. And hopefully whenever we finish this podcast today, we're all going to be 100% caught up with the need to knows and where everybody is. And on top of this, guess what? Very excited to bring back My Bookie. We've got our first season-long bet segment coming with My Bookie. I know a lot of people have reached out. When are we going to start that up again? So I'll give you details about that later. But I do want to say thank you to a couple beat writers that have just been putting out some awesome content. David Lombardi, Matt Mayoko, Matt Barrows. There's lots more, but those 3 in particular this week. I always want to highlight where the content comes from because those guys are working their tails off, and they just do a tremendous job. So as we jump into it today, here's the deal. We got to start with the new 49ers because once our family gets bigger, we got to welcome people in. That's just what it is. Probably the most famous addition was the former number 7 overall pick, Kevin White, wide receiver out of West Virginia. He was kind of a one-year wonder, combine extraordinaire. I mean, he's gigantic. Just test off the chart of everything, but he's just had so many injuries. He's only got 25 career catches in his 4 years in the NFL, but he just misses time. Now, you bring him in on a vet minimum deal. It's not going to cost you very much, but he has looked good in camp. Originally, I wouldn't say he has no chance at making the roster, but with all the injuries piling up at the wide receiver position, he is definitely a bubble contender to make this roster, but probably more likely being one of the guys that goes on the practice squad, one of the 6 veterans this year that you're allowed to put on the practice squad. That's what he's going to look like. Offensive line, they added Dakota Shepley from Canada. That was the worst Canadian accent ever, and I apologize if I offended anybody's parents that live north of the United States. But we added him. Tight end Marquise Gray. He hasn't played since 2017. So he's been with 4 teams over 6 years, undrafted free agent out of Minnesota. Again, injuries across the 49ers are not the only ones with this problem. Okay, I mean, if you just watched anything from what's happened in Philadelphia, they're losing. They could be out 2 Pro Bowl players already, and their rookie wide receiver got hurt as well today, and their quarterback's out. So the 49ers got it bad. But injuries are everywhere because there was no minicamp, no preseason games, no any of those things. So injuries are affluent everywhere in the NFL right now. So we bring in a tight end. Also get defensive end Alex Barrett, 6'2", 250. He's been with us before. He's bounced around practice squads, undrafted free agent from San Diego State. And James Lockhart, this one's hilarious to me. James Lockhart's a Texas guy, and as soon as we signed him, I started doing research. Just so happens I've coached with a couple coaches on his high school staff where he won a state championship back in Texas, and then also his college staff as well. And so started doing my due diligence and all that stuff. And before I hit record earlier today, guess what? James decided it was time to hang up the cleats and he's retiring. But here's the thing. Don't be upset at people like this. James is a great kid. Every single person I talked to just talked about how he's just a great human being and he's probably going to get into coaching. Wouldn't be shocked if that happens. So best of luck to him. So he came in, and as soon as he stepped in, he stepped back out. So he's gone now. And then the wide receiver, one of the best names in all of football, River Craycraft. That is just, it just flows, man. Flows like a river. Flows like a river. I just made that up right there. Look at that. 6 foot tall, 198, and he's made some positive plays already in practice. Undrafted free agent from Washington State. He was on Denver's practice squad. But now we've got him. And so, again, the wide receiver position is a mess. And whenever you look at why, well, we just brought in J.J. Nelson and Tavon Austin. J.J. Nelson's already done. He had an issue that was going to push him back 2 to 4 weeks, and the 49ers just decided to go ahead and move him to IR, officially ending his season with the 49ers, which helps him out a little bit financially because he's going to get paid, but he's not going to be playing for the 49ers this year. We also cut Jerron Brown, the longtime Seattle wide receiver, Jonathan Kongbo, which I think he's a practice squad candidate guy, but it just became very evident he's not ready to contribute this year for the 49ers, so they went ahead and moved on there. Eric Swope, who got signed last week, he's out again. And Kofi, I'm going to mess up his name, Amichia, extra offensive lineman. And again, I think he's going to be another one of those practice squad candidates because, again, you get 16 practice squad players this year. 10 fall under the old rules of the practice squad, and 6 can be veterans. So, again, I think you've got a couple options there for guys that could return, that we could see kind of develop into something in the future, but we'll have to see what happens there. Now, cuts are coming. You have the Game of Thrones winter is coming meme and all that kind of stuff. Cuts are coming. We're about a week out. So with no preseason, our calendar's thrown off. But make no mistake, recording this on Sunday, despite when you're listening to this, August 30th, we've got football, real football, meaningful divisional football here in 2 weeks to the day. So the Arizona Cardinals come to Santa Clara, and that game is going to have a huge impact on the course of the season. I mean, it's huge. Every single team starts with the exact same goal. Number 1, win your division. That's it. Number 1. And the way that the NFL has front-loaded the schedule, almost everybody starts off week 1. Maybe it is everybody, I don't know, with a divisional opponent. Then you go non-divisional for a while. Then it's back-loaded with divisional opponents. I think they did that just in case COVID acts up. You can kind of put some delays into the schedule and not miss any divisional games because week 1's happening 100%. There's nothing stopping week 1. It's happening. COVID, the numbers have been they've been exceptional for the NFL, to be honest with you. I think 3 current players in the entire NFL are under COVID reserve. So that's great. So we're going to get week 1. Now, what happens when traveling and inter-squad stuff and all that stuff steps into play? We don't know yet. But the NBA and the MLB, which has had much harder time, they're still going. So hopefully we'll get that figured out. Now let's jump to injuries, and goodness, there's a lot of them. And again, it's kind of rough to understand where we're at because so many players are just getting time off. They went so hard for so long. Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff and the players said, look, we're supposed to have our all-out scrimmage. We're not going to cancel the scrimmage. We're just going to do a walkthrough instead. We're going to break down practice and just slow down because it's just been too much. You had to pump the brakes a little bit. So Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw did not practice today. And Fred, this was asked 2 days in a row because Fred's missed a few days. And so the question was asked to Kyle Shanahan, man, what's up with Fred? And Kyle Shanahan will let him answer because sometimes you got to be smart with these guys that are alpha males. You just have to because they don't know when to stop sometimes. And that's when the coaching staff has to step in.
Both. Fred's as consistent of a player as we've had. He only goes one speed. And so, similar to Kittle, he didn't have the tightness that Kittle had, but we're trying to protect Fred from himself. We think Fred's ready to play. We still want to keep him going and keep him ready to play. So, we're not putting him on ice till week 1. But I think it helped other guys getting more reps today than what it helped Fred being out there.
And I think that's probably the most difficult position to evaluate because that linebacker room is stacked. We've been talking about it for a few weeks. I mean, the fact that Dre Greenlaw might not be Dre Greenlaw is not even going to be a starter in nickel packages. You've got guys Azeez Al-Shahar. I mean, there's just so many guys that are going to play for some NFL team. You want to keep 5 linebackers, and so letting those guys kind of duke it out and see who's going to get that. But the idea of, he even said he's ready to play. If we had to play, that's fine. But we don't need him right now. We need him later. Just sit him and we'll wait. And that brings us to the all-star himself, George Kittle, which, a little shameless plug here. We're finalizing episode 2, or chapter 2, I should say, of the Quest for 6 mini docuseries. And it's going to be over the Yak Pack. We've got Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. We have so much footage. It's been a lot of fun going through. Just as a fan, you cut all this stuff and you put it together, and we've had a lot of help from a lot of people, but that's coming soon. So hoping to get that out before the season starts just to build up a little bit more excitement. But George Kittle hasn't practiced either. And so, Kyle Shanahan jumped in and talked a little bit about Kittle wanted to come out and practice. Like, he was ready to go. They did an MRI as precaution, and here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say.
It's good with all the testing, so there's nothing pulled or strained, just tightness. So the way George moves and the way he goes, I mean, he only knows one way. So when he's tight, we're going to protect him from himself and wait till he's not tight.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you got to protect him from himself with these guys and just kind of everything that's going on because this NFL season is long. It's long. I mean, you look last year, Kittle played through a broken ankle. He ended up missing 2 games, still led the entire NFL in yards after catch from the wide receiver and tight end position, which is incredible. But just chill because, again, Nick Bosa also missing practice, right? Week to week with a hamstring. This time last year, he was dealing with a high ankle sprain, and people thought he was going to be out 3 to 4 weeks because ankle sprains are crazy. And before that, he was dealing with his, midsection repair of his abdominals and things like that. So Nick Bosa's out with the hamstring. He's week to week. Again, they said he's good to go. If we had a game today, he would go, but there's no need to push it because there has been some damage revealed by an MRI. Let's just wait, calm down. The goal isn't to win in August. The goal is to start winning in September. So allow these guys to just heal up. That's what you've got to do. Now, the defensive line, especially with Bosa out, D Ford's got some issues for sure. That's a problem as well. But one of the key guys that is going to, provide depth because he can play all 4 spots. But pass rushing, as we know, when the 49ers pass rush is healthy and fresh, best defense in the NFL. Once you lose 1 or 2 of those edge guys, that's when things get rough because, one, people are playing more snaps than they want to. You don't want to do that on the edge because you want to keep that fresh and just keep it going. And the 49ers have so much depth. And so when Kyle Shanahan was asked about Ronald Blair, who's going to be a pivotal player to the 49ers defense this year, I'm telling you right now, this kid, once he gets healthy, we've seen glimpses, and his best game ever as a pro was unfortunately whenever he got hurt against Russell Wilson. But Kyle Shanahan talked a little bit about the D-line and just how the depth is there and what that looks like going forward.
I feel good about that unit. I mean, we got some depth at it, and we got some, starters are very good, just like you guys saw last year, and we got some depth after that. Love Ronald Blair. Expect to have him back definitely this year. That hasn't changed. I'm hoping for week 1. We'll probably get some more clarity in that probably over next week because we want to make sure to give him a practice before he would come out there. And but we're getting close to being able to make a decision on that. But yeah, the whole group's done well. The people you mentioned have been good throughout camp, not just today. It gives Ronnie, allows us to be somewhat patient with him until he's fully healed, though.
And that's kind of, to the rich goes the spoils. If you can wait, right? Ronald Blair's a guy that, he's not going to be a PUP candidate or, an NFI candidate or anything like that. He's going to make the 53. There's no doubt about that. But if you can just wait till he's 100%, that's what's going to be key. And if you can do that, and here's the deal, there's so much depth at that position that you're having guys, and here's another thing, I didn't cut any of these clips. Kerry Hyder, every single person's talking about Chris Kuceric, Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan, everybody's talking about this kid. We go out and you sign Deion Jordan, the former number 3 overall pick, that's not the guy the coaches are talking about. Nobody's mentioned Deion Jordan. Everybody's talking about Kerry Hyder, who is, he's way less talented. There's no doubt about that. But his effort and motor, which is what you want with somebody that's only going to be getting, 5 to 10 snaps a game. I'm telling you right now, Kerry Hyder's making this roster. It's going to happen. And then interior-wise, Solomon Thomas is having his best camp of his life. Now, how many times is this just like, oh, well, I'll wait till I see it? I get it. I'm skeptical as well. The Solomon Thomas trade has not been a fun ride so far. It's been a long line. It's like going to Six Flags or Disneyland. It says it's going to be an hour wait. You're waiting 2.5 hours. And here we are, finally, Solomon Thomas has added weight. That's great. He's finally playing inside exclusively, namely at the nose tackle position, and he's getting more reps with the ones than he is with anybody else. He's getting sacks in practice on team. This is a guy that has twice as many penalties throughout his career than he's had sacks. So, again, cautiously optimistic. But if you can get somebody like Ronald Blair, Kerry Hyder, Solomon Thomas to actually step up and contribute starter-level quality snaps as a backup, again, the rich get richer. And that's kind of the idea. And I think, Kyle Shanahan kind of hit on that just a little bit because there's just so much talent on that side of the ball. Now, if we go to probably one of the not least talented positions, but definitely most sparse whenever you're talking about healthy bodies, that's a wide receiver position. It hurts a lot whenever you have so many guys out. Debo's out. Brandon Ayuk's out. Jalen Hurts done for the year already. You're bringing guys just off the streets, and they're getting hurt as well. And so you're struggling just trying to get people out there. And, Debo Samuel, who has continued to just work his ass off nonstop on the sidelines. He's sprinting almost full speed now, which is a Jones fracture that he's trying to overcome. So sprinting's not really the issue. The issue is cutting on that foot. And again, whenever you look at Debo's body, you're talking about somebody that's, under 6 foot, 205. He's probably bigger than that. He's put on some size, but that's where he was. It's a lot of pressure on that foot. And you can look at, Dez Bryant, Julio Jones, these bigger wide receiver guys. I know their body styles are very different than Debo, but weight-wise, they're not. And whenever you look at those guys that can cut so hard, that's the problem where Jones fractures happen. And so the cutting is what is key. But from all of the beat writers, they all keep saying, it's looking more and more likely that Debo can be ready to go week 1 than anybody originally thought. I've said since the start, since this injury happened, I said week 4 is whenever he's going to show up. Well, I'm kind of bumping that up now, just a little bit. I'm going to say week 3. Hopefully no setbacks. You got to protect him from himself because it's a long season. We're going to be okay without Debo for week 1 or 2. But whenever you complicate that even more with Brandon Ayuk not out there either. The starting wide receivers for the last 2 days and 2 wide receiver sets, Kendrick Bourne, don't have a problem with. Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis is a starting wide receiver. We're going to talk a little bit more about him towards the end of the podcast today. And spoiler alert, he's looking pretty good. Again, cautiously optimistic. Practice ended today with a touchdown pass from Jimmy Garoppolo to Dante Pettis. So he's running with the ones. He's playing relatively well. He's got some issues as always, but the talent's there. There's no doubt about that. Now, before we jump into a whole bunch of other stuff, which we're not even halfway through this episode, I'm telling you right now, I got 7 pages of notes. It's the weekend. The Chapman family's moving. We're moving next Monday. So we're packing and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what I would rather do besides pack? I'd love to talk some football. So I just keep going back and forth. My wife, I hope she's not listening. But I just want to talk 49ers because this is awesome. So we've got a whole bunch more to go. Don't go anywhere. But now is the time to start a brand new segment, so I'm so excited. Just want to say thank you again for mybookie.ag. They have sponsored this podcast for years during the season, and a big thing for me is I don't like a lot of sponsors. I don't like it. The podcast is free, and that's great, but for the amount of time I put into it, it's a full-time job. So sponsors, unfortunately, are part of it. So any sponsor I can get, I either want to make it 1 about 49ers, 2, make it funny, or 3, be something that's actually going to help society and help people around. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, my bookie's incredible, and here's the deal. Here's what they got going on right now. It's amazing. Winning seasons return at my bookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contests, and Squares. And here's the deal. For now, I don't know how long they're going to let us do this. If you invest in your intuition, use promo code 49ers, 49ERS, they're going to double your first deposit all the way up to $1,000. $1,000. Now, with this promo code, you can get up to $1,000. So if you deposit $500, they're going to give you $500. You deposit $1,000 all the way up there. They give it and they separate it into a free play category. Now, if you don't understand how rollovers work, they're going to help you understand that. You'll just click on it whenever you make your deposit, or you can call them. It's very easy to get money in and out. I've done this several times, and here's the deal. We tripled our money. If you bet with us every single bet last year, we tripled our money throughout the course of the season. We did really, really well. No lie, the Super Bowl hurt us a little bit. Ouch, but that's okay. We still finished up. So, and another thing, anytime I talk about a bet on here, I'm putting my own personal money down there as well, so you can take that for what you want. So again, head over to mybookie.ag, use promo code 49ers, 49ERS. It's simple, make your picks, win big, collect your cash, and it's simple. I also put the link in the description of this video, so if you want to just click on that link and get started, you can do that there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you 2 49ers bets today, our bets of the week. One of them's a little bit of a long shot, and one of them is much more conservative play. So you've got to figure out where you are and what you're comfortable with, but here we go. My long shot kind of bet of the week is defensive player of the year. Now you look at odds, Nick Bosa is currently second. He has the second best odds to win defensive player of the year, and I'm taking it. Now it's plus 800. So again, if you want to be conservative and just bet a little bit, I bet 5 to win $40. So you can kind of see the way that works. Now, if you're feeling risky and you want to put some more money down on that, that's fine. But I'm taking Nick Bosa, $5 to win Defensive Player of the Year. Now, something that's a little bit more likely to happen, who's going to win the NFC West? Again, head over to mybookie.ag and you just scroll down to NFL and you'll just see pages of different types of prop bets. We'll get into our week 1 matchups and spreads and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, you could bet on who's going to lose the most games. They got everything over there. But to win the NFC West, the 49ers are minus 110. So what the hell does that mean? Here's what it means. You bet 10, you win $19. So you basically double your money. They do have the best odds to win the NFC West. And so that's where I'm putting my money. I really think they're the favorites to do it. I think the 49ers actually improved their roster from 2019. Obviously, Seattle is exceptional. But, man, I'm telling you what. I love the 49ers team. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think that they've got a great shot to return as NFC West champs. So that's where I'm putting that in. So again, Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year, and NFC West champs. That's what I've got right there. Now, if you want to get into Super Bowl odds and all that kind of stuff, they're all there for you, but those are the 2 I'm putting my stamp on. So let's jump back now, and this is my favorite Kyle Shanahan clip I have ever seen. It's my new mantra of a parent and a teacher and a podcaster. Here we go. Let's hear the great one himself. I love this, man. I absolutely adore this.
Kyle, you seemed a little frustrated with the offense at certain times. Was there anything specific, or was it just like the energy or just the focus? What was...
No, you guys probably just able to see me better, I guess. There's really never a practice. I'm not frustrated out there. It's probably the same way I look in games most of the time, too. The way I focus is kind of get irritated at everything. But I'm mad when every play doesn't work. And then when you're also counting on the defense to do the same thing, too, and the special teams, it usually doesn't put me in that great of a situation. I'm upset one way or the other at everything. So I think guys get used to that out there. I think people used to take it a little more like, what's wrong with coach? But I think now they kind of know how I am. So I want to look into it too much. But there was some good and some bad, and it's probably as good as I can ask for.
It's like the Incredible Hulk when they ask him, like, what's your secret in not getting angry? And then he like walks off in the battle with his slow turn. He's like, the secret is I'm always angry. That's Kyle Shanahan. Why do you look more frustrated than you have looked? And he's like, no, I'm always frustrated. You just can probably hear it more now because there's no fans. But the quote of the way I focus is to get irritated at everything. Oh my gosh, it just hits home, man. It's hilarious. Love that guy. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, he also had a chance to talk, and it was pretty funny because he comes out with just an amazing mask on. And for my non-YouTube Periscope and hot mic everywhere, if you're not watching video-wise, that's okay. He comes out with his mask with his famous quote on there, "Feels great, baby." If you go back to his amazing post-game press conference with Aaron Andrews that just got everybody stirred up, whatever else. But I want to let him talk about it because it's for a good cause. And so, one, it's a funny joke, but I love how he turned it into helping the community.
A bit about your mask and the story behind it.
Yeah, just a little late to the party with the masks and everything, but just thought it was appropriate. Get the "Feels Great, Baby" out there, and we teamed up with this nonprofit organization, City Team, and all the proceeds will go to them, helping families in the Bay Area just during the pandemic, the quarantine with coronavirus and all that stuff. So it's for a good cause. So go get your mask, everyone.
There we go. So if you want to support that cause to get an awesome mask, that's where you do that. City Team, a nonprofit that he's helping out. And again, through, I'm looking at the countdown crew. Appreciate everybody. We're going to be doing a giveaway. Man, we're at the end of the month. So I'm going to be tallying those numbers up. I'm going to be giving away some 49ers Rush t-shirts. So stay tuned for that. I'll have to do that next week sometime. Appreciate everybody in the countdown crew. You guys are my favorite. And questions. If we have time at the end of this, if we don't go over an hour, I'll be going through some of those questions that you guys have. Just make sure that you at me because, again, this is a live show. I don't have time to read through everything. So at John Chapman if you have a question you want me to get to. Now, one of the questions that I thought was really interesting, you go back to Halloween when we traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking like 2.5 years ago is kind of where it was. Almost 3 years now. But the team has come so far from where we were at that point. And that question was asked to Jimmy, what it was like then and what it's like now.
We got traded to the 49ers. They had just come off a bad loss to the Eagles. And obviously everything happened with you coming here. Do you just remember what that week was like for you? And can you kind of take me into what the vibe was like in the building when you arrived?
It seems like forever ago. Yeah, it was a much different vibe than it is now. I can tell you that. Just when I first got here, so many rookies around the team. The team was kind of in a weird place as a whole. Just didn't really have the identity that we have now, I would say. But I think I don't know, just with Kyle and John, the people they bring in, it makes it so easy to adapt and get to know each other and be on the same page with everyone. And that's what's really cool about the vibe of this team. It's just it's something like I've never been on before, and it's fun to be around.
If you don't stop and look back every now and then, you get spoiled. And as 49ers fans, we should be spoiled. Yeah, we went through some really rough times, but we've been to the Super Bowl twice in 6 years. We do have 5 championship rings. We have one of the largest fan bases of any pro sports team in the world. And we've just got a lot of all-time greats. Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. I mean, you can go on and on. Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig, whatever. But, man, we weren't there just a few years ago. And, talking about the bets in NFC West, we're the favorites. We have the best players. We really, really do. Kyle Shanahan said multiple times, I really feel like we have the best roster in the NFL. And I don't think that's a stretch at all to say that. And so whenever you look at, the time before Jimmy and after, it's constant uptrend. And there's not really much higher you can go besides sealing the deal and bringing home that 6, the quest for 6. And so I think we're there. And not only has the 49ers team changed, I think Jimmy Garoppolo's changed. And this question was posed to Robert Saleh, who, goes against Jimmy Garoppolo every day in practice. And the question was, man, how has Jimmy changed? And has he changed at all? And I think it's I think it's awesome how he answered the question because all the Jimmy haters out there, if you're still watching, this one's for you, baby.
He seems more decisive. A year ago, people forget it was really his second year technically starting because his first year he got hurt really early. Some can argue that it was his first year starting, but his comfort level in the scheme and what Kyle and his staff are asking of him what each play is asking of him, and so he's much more decisive with the football, and he has such an amazing arm talent that the quicker he can be decisive and when I say decisive, I mean just decisive, where that ball is in his hands and out on his back foot. When he hits his back foot in his drop, it's a thing of beauty, and you're seeing more and more of it throughout camp, where there's less where do I go with the ball? There's less holding on to it. It is a very decisive. He's a very decisive quarterback, and I could only imagine it's only going to get better and better as once they get into game planning and settling things in. And so, he's talented, and so and everyone in the building has a tremendous amount of confidence in him.
And I think that's the thing. Like, if you could pick one thing that Jimmy Garoppolo needs to improve on, I mean, he was top 10 in every metric possible that you could measure a quarterback by in the 2019 year. The only issue was fumbles, interceptions, and they held onto the ball too long at times. And so that's decisiveness. And whenever you're going through the draft and you're watching film, you're constantly trying to see through the coach's angle or the wide angle and match those two up and say, okay, what's the quarterback seeing? What's he looking at? And what is he waiting on? You know, Jimmy Garoppolo is an anticipatory passer, which means he doesn't have to see it to throw it. Sometimes, however, he'll rely a little bit too much on what his progression should be, and he'll let it go, and a dropping backer will get into his lane. So you get that decisiveness. You get that ball off just a hair quicker. That's going to eliminate some of those things. The sacks will go down. The fumbles will go down because the sacks go down. The interceptions will go down because he knows where he's going with the ball, and he's acting quicker. So that's great. I mean, yeah. Obviously, is a 49er coach going to say, well, he's taking steps back and he's not doing well? No. So you got to take it for what it is. But if you could ask for Jimmy Garoppolo to improve in any area, it's going to be decisiveness. That's going to be number one. And the number two is going to be more deep balls. But that's much more of a Kyle Shanahan. He will throw it deep if he wants to throw it deep. Now, let's jump to another huge offensive player, which has been working with the ones despite being his first and second full practice, and that's Jordan Reed. You know, Kittle's out, so Jordan Reed just jumps right in with the first team, and he had a heck of a day. Caught a touchdown against Tart. We'll talk about Tart a little bit later in this episode. But Jimmy Graham, or sorry, I apologize. Sorry about that. Live show, can't edit this. Please, RIP my mentions. Jimmy Garoppolo, gosh, I can't believe I did that. Jimmy Garoppolo was asked about Jordan Reed and what's it like playing with him. Here's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy, Jordan Reed had a touchdown reception today. I'm just curious how his acclimation process has been, and what potentially adding a second tight end, somebody who could complement George and give you guys overall just another pass catching option could do for the offense.
Yeah, it would be huge. You know, with George, you know, having the limited reps and everything, it's giving other guys an opportunity to step up, and it's good to see, you know, when guys get that opportunity, they're taking advantage of it. And you know, Jordan had a great day today. You know, he could do things in space and make guys miss. And, you know, the other guys, Charlie, Chase, those guys have been stepping up too. So it's a group effort there at tight end. And just you're happy to see guys take advantage of it.
Yeah, you love the coach's answer where he makes sure he includes every single tight end in his answer. But the idea that, you know, you could put somebody in, you know, they did team ones versus ones in the red zone, which, again, you know, talking about areas that need improvement. You scored the second most points in the NFL last year in 2019 for the 49ers. That's great. Scored the second most points. That's great. But you were really, really poor in red zone efficiency. Defensively, exact same thing. They performed poorly there. So I love that they're putting this huge emphasis on red zone ones versus ones. And, you know, just going back and forth there. And I think Jordan Reed, he's going to be a great player if, here's the asterisk, he can stay healthy. He's never stayed healthy. And the question was asked, and man, this is a tough question. Has he ever thought about retiring? Because the concussions, all the issues. I mean, if he did retire, everybody would say, yeah, we get it, man. But this question was asked to him, and I thought it was interesting the way he answered it.
Man, I definitely thought about hanging it up after last season. But, yeah, it was when I seen the Super Bowl that really, you know, kind of ignited me again, and just, you know, I wanted playing those big games, man, and, you know, God blessed me to be here and a part of this great team and gave me an opportunity to be in that situation. So yeah, that's what's driving me, and I love the game of football, and I just want to keep. I still got the drive to keep playing. So
You love the hunger, and seeing the team in the Super Bowl and just saying, gosh, I want to be there. He's never had a lot of success whenever you look at kind of records and postseason stuff because he was with one of the worst franchises in the world, the Washington Football Club. But now he gets to be a part of a winning program for the first time. And so I think it's going to be interesting how he's going to fit because he doesn't have to be an every down guy. He doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy at his position. If you go back to those teams in Washington, he was the first target. Here, he's not going to be a top 5 target. It just doesn't fit that way. So he just gets to be a complementary piece that is going to alleviate some of the stress, especially early on with all these wide receivers down. So, if you do go into week 1 and you have Pettis and you have Kendrick Bourne and you have Trent Taylor, that's fine because you can do a lot of 2 tight end sets and have 22 personnel sets, which we didn't do a lot last year. But, you got Kyle Juszczyk, who's, he's dealing with the hamstring as well. But you can put those 2 tight ends that are great pass catchers and Juszczyk out there and Jerick McKinnon out there, who's a great receiving back. There's a lot of just versatility. Kyle Shanahan's going to like this podcast now because I used this word between these guys that can do so many different things. And I think that's huge. Also, I thought this was, I almost wanted to lead with this, but there's just so much stuff going on. Raheem Mostert, guys, in the scrimmage, okay, this is huge. He went out with the ones and got the first carry. Now, why is that such a big deal? Raheem Mostert has never started a game in the NFL in his entire career. Raheem Mostert has never received the very first carry for a team ever in a game. It hasn't happened in the NFL. So this is great. It does seem like a transition has finally shifted, so I don't have to say cuss words every single time the 49ers take the field on offense. And I love Tevin Coleman. That's great. I just don't think that he is better than Raheem Mostert. Maybe in pass protection, but that's it. So this is great news. This is great news. It does seem like it's finally going to be Raheem Mostert time. And again, we talked about Solomon Thomas a little bit earlier, but I did want to play this clip because I thought it was interesting from Kyle Shanahan talking about Solomon Thomas and how the adjustment how his game has adjusted in his 4th year.
Definitely. I mean, Solly is he got more reps inside last year. He's getting all reps inside this year, except when we have emergencies and he just got to fill in to help guys get through practice. And he had a heck of an offseason, putting on some weight, put on some real good weight, and it showed in the run and pass game throughout this whole camp. So what people have been saying about him is true, and I'm real happy for him because he's earning it and deserves it.
All reps inside. All reps inside. All reps inside. Ah, man, it took 3 years, but we finally got our coaching staff to understand where this guy plays. So I love that. Now, I did say, some emergencies, if we got to put him outside, we can. We know he's not effective in there, but all reps inside. And so there's just players sometimes that you can't stop rooting for. And Solomon Thomas is that guy. I think I'm very critical of his play because I love the kid so damn much. And I want it to be a thing. It just hasn't been a thing yet, but maybe. Maybe. You guys are going to have to try to hold me back. Let's just say he has not a good week 1. Hold me back. It's just kind of where we're at. Another newbie is Juwan Jennings, who's been getting a lot of snaps because, again, wide receivers are out. And Juwan Jennings, the question was asked, who are you? And this kid's personality just freaking, it's awesome. I want him in front of the camera so much more. The attitude and charisma is 100% there. Again, this kid was a quarterback in high school, played quarterback in college for a short time as well. He's got that leadership mentality, and I think he's making the roster for sure now. I think he was a practice squad candidate originally, but with all the attrition and injuries, the guy's going to make the roster now. And whenever you listen to him talk on who is Juwan Jennings, that was the question asked, you root for this kid because whenever you watch him on film, and you see him just playing with so much heart and determination, and then you listen to him talk, you get chills because you can see how it translates from off the field to on the field. So who is Jauan Jennings? Here we go, baby.
A yak guy, yak monster. Definitely gonna bring that physicality part into the game, from a receiver standpoint, not just from catching the ball, but blocking as well. And just a winner, a guy that's gonna go out there and you got 3 seconds on the clock, ball's floating in the air, now on 0. I'm the guy that's gonna come down with it. And that's the way I would just explain myself to anyone who wants to know how I play.
Oh God, that is if you have a child that's in sports or whatever, play that clip for them. Make them watch it and make them understand why that's so important. The question was just, who are you? And he goes to the end of the game whenever everything's on the line. He's got a huge smile on his face, and he's already made up his decision. I'm making this catch. Visualization is huge, and those things pay off. I love that mentality. It's that Jordan mentality where when the game's on the line, I'm taking the shot. I'm not looking for an assist. If I have to, that's fine. This is mine. And so for a 7th rounder going through his first training camp to already have that mindset and to smile because he's gone through that before. Like, oh, man, whew. I get pumped up, man. I get pumped up. Love me some Jauan Jennings. That is awesome. Another rookie that's getting more and more one-on-one or first-team reps, Colton McKivitz. He's ascending quick. I don't think that he's going to start week 1 because it's going to be Tom Compton, and we're going to see some issues right up the middle. It's just going to happen, so just get used to it. But he is getting more and more first-team reps at right guard, and I think eventually he's going to start. He went through and just dominated all the one-on-ones in practice the last 2 days. The kid is just getting better. His confidence is there. His attitude is there. His body is there. And so once his head gets there with the plays and the shifts and all the kind of different things, the kid's going to get it. And, whenever you're going up against Javon Kinlaw play in and play out, you got to be a tough SOB. That's just what it is. So Colton McKivitz is going to be one of those guys eventually. Another surprise has been Jamichael Hasty, who, we put our stamp on with the 49ers Rush podcast as soon as we signed him as an undrafted free agent. I said, this is the guy, and everybody's like, no, Salvin Ahmed's better. And I was like, nope. Jamichael Hasty is going to be the guy. Well, guess what? David Lombardi of The Athletic, he came out and said he has surpassed Jeff Wilson, okay? You can't read a practice report without somebody mentioning Jamichael Hasty. You just can't do it. Now, here's what's great, and this is the whole iron sharpens iron thing. Hasty's climbing. Well, guess what? How did Jeff Wilson respond today? 3 touchdowns in the red zone period today. That's all Jeff Wilson does. And so whenever this is the decision for the 4th running back on this team, because you got Mostert, you got Jerick McKinnon, you got Tevin Coleman, and if you want to throw in, Juice into that mix as well, we're talking about roster bubble guys. I'm not betting against Jamichael Hasty. That's all I can say. I'm not betting against Jeff Wilson either. I just think Jamichael Hasty is a much better fit in the Kyle Shanahan system. I want to keep them all. But I don't think that this is the year that you can keep 5 healthy running backs plus a fullback. I don't think you can do it. So a tough decision is going to be made. Will Jeff Wilson clear waivers? Hell no. Will Jamichael Hasty clear waivers? Probably not. So are you going to be able to stash both of them? No. You're going to have to keep one, and you're going to have to risk losing the other. But, the one thing is, you look in the years past, last year, our position that was a peril was the running backs, because we had 4 hurt running backs at this point last year. Now everybody's healthy, including Jerick McKinnon. So hopefully that continues, and that's going to be a tough decision to make, but take that for what you will. Dante Pettis, let's get to our boy, the Catman. Here's the deal. Not only is he starting at wide receiver like we talked about earlier, he's also the number 1 punt returner right now. Now, Kyle Shanahan has been very vocal about what he looks for in a punt returner because number 1 is not explosiveness. Now, Dante Pettis is the all-time leading punt returns for touchdown in NCAA football history. He's the most electric punt returner, period, still to this day. But that's not what Kyle Shanahan looks for first. What he looks for first, securing the catch. Dante Pettis has had some issues with this. Now, not back in college. He had one drop. One drop in college. That's it. His entire career. Things changed in the NFL, but Pettis has recommitted himself, and if he could prove that he can catch the ball, he's at least going to be the punt returner, the starting punt returner, which is what I want. Trent Taylor, you'd like to be back there as well. Trent Taylor is a much safer punt returner, but he lacks all explosiveness. That's just not really who he is. He's got to catch the ball and maybe get you 8 yards. But whenever you look at Pettis, he fumbled the very first punt in the team scrimmage. Now, he did catch the next 2, but those are the things. Can you trust him whenever you put him out there? Personally, what I would do, I would put Trent Taylor out there. He would be my first punt returner. If we got a lead or if we fell back, a decent lead, I would slowly build up that game confidence to get him out there. But I'd send Trent Taylor out there first, and then eventually I'd work Dante Pettis in. But that's just kind of where I would put him. Now, I want to kind of conclude my notes talking about the secondary, and I got 2 more clips I want to show you because our safety position's interesting, and Jimmy Ward's great. Jimmy Ward's great if he's healthy. Mr. Glass shows up from time to time. He got hurt to start last year, but then he played all the way through just fine. The only critique outside of injuries with Jimmy Ward is just no interceptions. And same thing for Tart as well. So we're going to hear from 2 different people. And I want to talk about this a little bit. But the question was asked, man, to Robert Saleh. How can he create more turnovers? And Robert Saleh is going to go a little bit into the X's and O's and kind of the whole blueprint of the defense here. And hopefully this will help us understand maybe this is the year that Jimmy Ward starts creating turnovers. That would be huge because he's such a great player everywhere else. This is the only part lacking from his game. Here's Robert Saleh.
That's good. So for our scheme, we've as coaches, we give our players call it a 3-foot platform that's home base. If you don't know what you're doing, if you just stick to home base, you'll be okay. And as a player and as a coach, you try to find ways to make that 3-foot base 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You just keep trying to make that thing widen. And so they understand where they can cheat within the defense to go make plays. And when you've stepped off that platform, you quickly know exactly where you need to go back to so you can continue on that path to finding ways to make more plays than just what the playbook tells you. Because if you just play the game by the book and just play the game as the book reads, you'll be out there, you won't make mistakes, but you're not gonna make any plays either. On the flip side, as a player, it's where Sherm's been, where he's made a living of just understanding what the playbook is asking of him, but at the same time understanding where he can cheat within the defense to go make a play. And that's what Jimmy's learning. He's going into his second full term now as a free safety. And so the challenge for him is, based on what we did last year and the new things that we're doing this year, how can he make his world, how can he widen his world, and just make it bigger where he can find ways to cheat within the defense to go make plays without sacrificing the scheme. And I think he's getting to that point. He's starting to figure all that stuff out. So.
Yeah, if Saleh's right there. If he could get to that mastery level of this position, which again, he's been played out of position. Stop me if you heard that before for anybody. Played out of position most of his career. Finally where he should be. If he can take that next step, and he talked about Richard Sherman. I think this is one of the things that sets Sherman apart from all other corners. Sherman's not a lockdown corner. Sherman is the type of corner that's going to bait the quarterback into thinking somebody's open, and then he's going to go make you pay for it. Sherman doesn't want to lock people down. Sherman wants to be targeted. He wants people to throw at him. You see him doing the yawning and all that kind of stuff. Well, now we translate that kind of mindset and understanding to Jimmy Ward. If he can get to that place where he handles all of his responsibilities, but then he can go to the next level. It's not San Francisco's 49ers defense 101 anymore. It's time to take the next level class. And so if he can do that, then watch out, because that's the only thing missing from this defense is turnover-making safeties. We don't have them. It just doesn't exist. And Jaquiski Tart, this video is pretty cool because you see how jacked this dude is, man. He's huge. He got asked a very similar question. So here's Jaquiski.
For us, I mean, as a secondary, we hang our hat on catching the ball. And last year as safeties, I don't think we ended up with any picks, but besides T Moore in the Super Bowl. So for us, it's like it's been a big deal to try to get the ball as much as we can. And a lot of guys been working hard to try to make it happen. So I mean, give those guys credit.
And I think that's exactly it. The only interception, and you could tell it weighs on his head. We didn't have any interceptions. The only one was a backup in the Super Bowl. It's got to change. It's got to change. And especially if you look at Tart, who's, kind of going on the last year of his deal. If this part of his game doesn't improve, he's not coming back. It's just, there's too much depth that's so cheap behind him. He's got to start making plays. It's just the reality of the situation. So that does it for our scripted part of this podcast. I do want to get to some questions, and just want to say thank you guys. Really do appreciate all the support. I'm seeing this question here from AJ, who's such an awesome supporter. Really appreciate this. He asked this, man, love your stuff. How can I go about helping out the podcast? Number one way, hit that notification bell wherever it is you listen. I know you're on YouTube, AJ, and I really appreciate you always being here. Number two is joining Patreon. It's $8 a week. $8 a month. I apologize. The Frank Gore tier, you join that. And once the season starts, our breakdowns, they get going again. You're talking a complete offensive breakdown. I go through the entire game tape with you as soon as it gets put up on Game Pass. And, we go through both angles and break down like what happened here and why this worked and why it didn't. Understand the scheme and the playbook and all those things. Patreon, which the link is in the video. Just hit the description and that's going to be there. So that's the number one way to support this podcast. Anything that goes into Patreon, that does not go to me. That goes straight to the podcast. That is completely funding the entire team for the Quest for 6 series and some more stuff, which guess what? I have problems. We're always working on stuff on the back end to try to improve the podcast. So that is the number one way. And, another thing, just personally, a big reason why the family decided to move, it's time to step up the podcast. I'm recording in my bedroom right now, and my computer and all this stuff is set up on my wife's dresser. I don't even have a desk. We're making the best for what we can. We live in California, so everything's tidy, right? But that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be able to expand a lot more, create a better situation to do these podcasts so that I can record more. Right now, it takes me 30 minutes to set up for every single podcast. So anytime I record for you guys, which I love, that's 30 minutes set up, 15 minutes set down just of equipment. That's not like watching any of those things. So I treat this like a full-time job. That's the mindset that I have coming to this podcast, and I'm going to do whatever the hell you guys want. So whenever you guys say, man, it'd be cool if you could do this, that's how we got here. We didn't used to video the podcast, but people were like, man, it'd be cool if there was a video aspect. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's add that. And we just keep stepping up with lighting, better equipment, all kinds of stuff. We have a team behind us now. We have people that are breaking down video and getting us stuff so we can get more stuff out to you guys. So just thank you, AJ, and all the people on Patreon. The big reason why this podcast continues to grow 4 years in is because you guys come up with awesome ideas. You're the fans. This is your podcast. Whatever I could get for you guys to make 49ers fandom better, we're going to do that, period. That's all there is to it. So let's get to a couple questions from Nick. Here we go. How worried should we be if we lose our first game to the Cards because we have so many starters injured? Here's the deal. Looking over at my bookie, I'm going through all the projected win totals. The 49ers are projected to get 10.5 wins. 10.5. That's the over-under, which I don't want to bet the over-under because what if coronavirus happens and they cancel 3 games, and I just don't want to mess with that. That's why the things I bet were, if there's games, we're going to have awards. We're going to have an NFC championship even if they cancel 8 games. We're going to have a defensive player of the year even if they cancel 8 games. So I'm not messing with the over-unders, right? But I think that it's very telling. The 49ers have the second highest win total projection at 10.5 games. That means we lose 5.5 games. That's the idea. The 49ers are going to lose games. The 49ers are going to lose a divisional game. It's going to happen. We have the toughest division in the entire NFL, and that's not counting us, who's the best team in the division. So, yeah, games are going to be lost. No doubt about that. It's going to happen. So, what you don't want to do, are we going to go 9-0 again? I don't think so. That doesn't happen very often. It's the second best start in the history of the 49ers franchise since we've been around. We had some great damn teams. So No, Nick, pump the brakes. Whatever the 49ers do lose, and even if it is week 1, whenever we're dealing with all these injuries, it's okay. It's not going to be good. I'm going to be pissed off and whatever else. But no, chill out. There's going to be losses. 13-3 does not happen. Some franchises have never won 13 games in a season, let alone go to the Super Bowl. So losses are going to happen. Yeah, there's a lot built up on this because there's no preseason, but we just need to take it in stride and see where we go and build, because this team's got a long ways to go. It really, really does. It's not at its best, and you don't want it at its best in August. You want it at its best in January and February. From Mr. Superfly, here we go. Just a general question. Do you think Richard Sherman is going to get thrown at more this season? No, I do not. I really, really don't, especially early. They're going to target the heck out of the nickel position, and they're going to target the heck out of the right cornerback position. If K'Wan Williams is back, that'll help tremendously, but that is a position of worry right now. So I don't think there's any reason to kind of go after Sherman right now. I don't think they're going to do it. Let's see here from Nick. Do you think Cyprien, Warner, Hasty, and Jennings make the final 53? I don't think Cyprien will. I think he's going to be on the practice squad. Warner will 100% make the final 53. Hasty, I'd say he's a 50-50 shot right now over Jeff Wilson. And Jennings, I'd say probably 90% off the top of my head. So hopefully that helps. I don't think Cyprien can, even though he's had a hell of a training camp, I don't think it's possible for him to go over Harris, who this team is very high on him. And Tarvarius Moore should be a damn starter as far as I see it. But so anyway, how much trouble are we in at center? It's scary. We'll find out in week 2 or 3. Week 1, not a difficult matchup against the Cards at center. Week 2 and 3, it's going to change just a little bit. You got Quinnen Williams and Leonard Williams back-to-back weeks there, just off the top of my head over the center. Those are tough matchups. But Daniel Brunskill, he's old faithful. And whenever I say old, like, he's not that old. He's played less than 1 full year in the league. But you just trust him because he's been everywhere. He's got to make up some ground, but, hopefully Ben Garland will be back at some point. And so center's not great. It's not great. I think it's the biggest weakness on the offensive side of the ball, then wide receiver. But I think we're going to be okay. I really, really do. It's not a position of strength by any stretch, but we'll have to see what happens. Once we get to the Rams games, that's when it's going to change. From AJ, it sounds like Kentavious Street is getting huge reviews. You are exactly correct. DJ Jones, he spoke today at length about how Kentavious Street has taken the biggest step up out of everybody in the entire defensive locker room. And so I think that's kind of huge. So kind of take that for what you will, but we have all of these kind of big guys that we've invested time into that just haven't panned out yet. And the 49ers are loyal, man. They stick to these players and they keep giving them chances. Sooner or later, one of them's got to pan out. That's just what it is. That's what it is. Oh, Sebastian, I love it. Who is the Manscaped player of the day? I'm going to go Jordan Reed. Getting a touchdown with the first teamers, in his very first work back. I think that's huge. And so if you can get anything from Jordan Reed, anything, then I think crazy things are ahead for this offense, because that's kind of what we lacked last year, was a receiving threat at the tight end position outside of Kittle. So if you can get that number 2 to show up, watch out. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us. We're right at 58-minute mark. That is awesome. Such a blast hanging with you guys on Sunday. Really, really do appreciate it. Remember, we got our bet online. Use promo code 49ers if you want to double that deposit. And as always, Patreon's the best way to support the podcast. Love you guys. Appreciate all that you do. And as always, stay strong, faithful.